Okay. Today we'll practice shrug 3. Wait. Snake number 3. What is it? The film begins on an unidentified island where a group of laborers performing excavations for a private company are seen. It turns out that the island is being turned into an ecological theme park. However, when they find a series of huge fossils and skeletons that point to the island's past, their work is hampered. When everything settles down, the workers are taken aback to discover that the explosion has revealed yet another enormous fossil. Curious, they proceed to inspect the find when suddenly it starts to move and vanishes into the ground. This is when it happened. Dissatisfied with the delay in construction, the workers decide to set up powerful explosives onto the nearby foundations. As the workers attempt to make sense of the situation and learn that the fossil is still alive, an intense tremor occurs. The workers flee in a state of panic when a huge python emerges from the ground. However, running away is not enough to avoid the wrath of the beast, which quickly destroys the entire area. The ground then shakes again, and the huge dinosaur appears. The two creatures engage in an epic duel, carrying the island up with their enormous size and strength to the end. Oh no, wait elsewhere. A young man named Kai awakens from a bad dream around midnight. He then, at that point, unexpectedly sees the presence of a horrendous figure remaining next to him. Frightened, Kai makes a run for it prior to stumbling over and tumbling to the ground. The lights come on and it turns out his mom Shell was attempting to terrify him here. We learn that Kai is very eager to visit the ecological theme park, and one day his dream finally comes true when Shaw surprises him with 2 tickets. Kai has a leg injury, and his mother trains him to gain more control over his legs despite his limitations. For the amusement leave, the film then, at that point, slices to the secretive island where Shao Kai and different vacationers travel on a visit transport investigating the woods. As they adventure further, Kai is left in shock when he sees the Goliath python crawling up a mountain. He attempts to tell his mom of his locating. In any case, she isn't persuaded and expects that it was similarly as creative mind. Soon after, the transport driver Zhang sees 2 monster rocks moving toward them from a higher place and rapidly moves the transport to try not to get hit. This prompts Jan crashing the transport into a close-by tree, causing boundless frenzy as everybody gets out. They discover that the bus is ensnared in mud and are forced to push it out together. In the meantime, Kai desperately needs to use the bathroom, so he and another passenger move further away from the group to find a place to relieve themselves. Professor Jia and his assistant lay on the ground, observing the boulders and coming to the conclusion that a monster must have thrown it in their direction, when the man is suddenly attacked by a massive tongue that pulls him into the woods. Some of the passengers are suddenly attacked and dragged into the forest, prompting the others to rush inside the bus right away. Zhao closes the door in some way. She then realizes that her son Kai is not with her. As a result, the monster turns out to be a huge frog and runs toward the bus. The passengers all keep their heads down because they are afraid they will be eaten. But when the frog sees Kai alone in the woods and is about to attack, it rushes after him and starts running frantically, but Kai manages to avoid all of its attacks. The frog is unable to enter him after he hides inside a huge tree trunk. In any case, when the monster doesn't get what it needs, it drives the storage compartment away, making it roll down a slope back in the transport. The people experience a serious quake and it's uncovered that the Goliath python has shown up. It encircles the bus with its body and lifts it above the trees, panicking the passengers who scramble to hold on to their seats to avoid falling to their deaths. And look at the python's expression as it is about to rip the bus apart. What seems as though it was made with a PC. Shaw regains consciousness and discovers that only a few people survived the brutal fall. The ground begins to shake again, and the passengers take cover behind the bus. They remain quiet and patient as the sound of large stamps gets closer by the second. Eventually a huge dinosaur appears in the. Fortunately, the python hears another roar in the distance and abruptly lets go, causing the bus to free fall. The resulting crash knocks everyone unconscious. Humans cower in fear because it seems like everyone has died, but the beast doesn't notice them, so it goes away without much trouble. In the meantime, to Kai's horror, he finally breaks free from the tree trunk and enters a large cave. From the corner of his eye, he quickly hides behind the eggs and discovers that the footsteps are of a raptor that is currently munching on the unborn fetuses inside the eggs. He also discovers a huge piece of snake skin and several eggs laid on the floor. Kai then hears loud footsteps approaching him and also spots a silhouette of a I make every effort to preserve science. However, his watch's alarm suddenly goes off, revealing his cover. Kai makes a run for it after the raptor locates Kyle, who knows it's time to die without a watch. As the monster continues its search for him, he eventually hides in a broken eggshell. The giant python suddenly appears inside the cave and pulls the raptor away before devouring it. It then spots the young boy but, surprisingly, does not take any action. It was hiding inside its food genius. It turns out that the snake's exer mistakenly thinks Kai is one of its children. This is because the python's scent changed after he hid inside the eggs while he was grieving the loss of his offspring. Kai gets away and leaves the cave at the same time. The remaining tourists want to leave the island as soon as possible out of desperation. A money manager and the overseer of the amusement park, Chen, illuminates the others that a pinnacle is situated at the pinnacle of the mountain, which they can use to convey a message for help. Nonetheless, Shaw is frantic to find her child. She asks the others for help. But no one wants to help her, so she leaves the group to find Kai on her own because she has no other choice. Shaw is surprised when Zhang, the bus driver, shows up at the last minute to help her. She thanks him and tells him that they can find Kai thanks to the GPS on his smartwatch. As the two talk, they suddenly hear some rustling in the bushes, which shocks them. They prepare for the incoming danger out of fear, only to discover that it is actually the Professor Jia and his assistant Lei. The four of them briefly celebrate their reunion before setting out to find the boy, at which point the movie cuts to a tired Cry. His leg is abruptly caught by a tree vine as he walks hopelessly alone through the woods, making matters worse. It just so happens, a Goliath flesh-eating plant has caught him. The plant then violently opens its mouth and lets out a sharp spike which misses Kaiser had, but the enormous python swoops in and blocks the spikes just as the beast fires its second shot at Kai. Because of this, Kai was able to free himself while also killing the planet. He is shocked to learn that the python saved him from death. As the two of them stare at each other, the python slowly approaches the boy and asks for help removing the spike that is embedded in its body. Kai immediately picks up some tree vines and ties them to the spike. Permitting the python to haul it out. After this, the monster snake leaves the spot and heads profound into the backwoods somewhere else. The group reaches the summit of the mountain, where they discover that the entire area is in ruins. To make matters even more dire, a massive T-Rex appears in front of them. Whether it has tiny arms or not, it attacks humans without hesitation and brutally kills them. However, Kai accidentally steps on a twig and draws the dinosaur's attention to himself when he comes across a dinosaur eating a huge frog. Kai's mother, Zhao, finds him and pulls him to the side before it attacks him. The two finally reunite, but not for long. When the dinosaur sees them and immediately attacks, it knocks out Zhang Jia and falls down a hill before chasing Zhou and her son. The two eventually lead the dinosaur through a small hole that he can't fit through to escape. Zhou and Kai soon find themselves surrounded by two hungry dinosaurs, but even this time the heroic python appears out of the blue and knocks them aside. However, the mother and son duo are not yet free because they discover that they have run into another dinosaur, which immediately chases after them. After saving the humans from harm, they try to escape the area while the python protects them from attacks. However, in the next scene, more dinosaurs show up and attack the python at once. When the five of them reach the top of the mountain, they are devastated, just like the others, to see the place as a barren wasteland. Expects to see a lot of python and T-Rex skeletons and believes that the two have fought before. Kai is suddenly taken hostage by Chen while he is looking around the area. Who is revealed to be the sole survivor of his group. As he holds the boy at knife point and places blame on everyone, it is clear that he has lost his mind. Sha begs him to let her son go, but they are stopped by a terrifying roar. The giant T-Rex comes back, and Zhao uses the chance to save Kai. They leave the scene, and Chen is crushed by the T-Rex's feet. Shang drives away from the chaos as the dinosaur hurls numerous boulders at them from a car the group finds. However, Zhang is able to avoid each one just as the dinosaur charges toward their vehicle, causing them to collide with a nearby rock and become unconscious. Soon after, they awoke to see the dinosaur coming toward them to kill them. However, you guessed it, it stops short of being able to touch them. Baby, the enormous python saves them. Shaw gathers the dynamite and places it inside the car. She then bids goodbye to her son before driving away to the battlefields, where Shaw heroically drives close to the T-Rex's legs and jumps out. A deadly battle ensues with every passing second. The T-Rex starts gaining the upper hand. Seeing the python lose, the humans quickly come up with a plan and decide to use the nearby explosives to help it out. Unfortunately for her, the detonator in the moving car does not work, and their plan is now dead. The group knows for sure that they will die, but then they notice that the car is leaking gasoline. She then grabs a torch and sprints toward the fight with the intention of sadly detonating the dynamite before she can get any closer. At this point, the T-Rex is so close to killing the python that a flying boulder has knocked it out. To everyone's surprise, the young boy makes the bold decision to intervene and save his friend. Despite having a broken leg, he sprints toward the monsters. He hurls the torch at the car, which causes the dynamite to explode. He also helps the python, which eventually kills the dinosaur while Kai is blown backward and the others rush toward him and frantically call his name. Fortunately, the giant python doesn't wake him up because it has another advantage. Sleeves aren't worn by pythons. The film cuts to a future where everyone has returned home and Kaiser's leg injury is finally healed elsewhere after it comes close to Kai and roars ferociously, prompting him to wake up quickly. After returning to the island for a second exploration, Professor Gia and the layman were successful in locating additional perilous monsters still lurking below the surface. Turn on notifications, please subscribe for more videos like this one, and like the channel to support it. I appreciate your attention.